have it going on, girl. That's all I can say. So um, I'm just really, I'm honored to be here with you. I have to say it because I've known you from the beginning of time when you just had a little fashion shop in Cherry Creek. And,
Yeah.
you were doing that, kind of doing that. You liked clothes. I think that's why you did it. And we all like clothes. So we always came to visit. But now it's a whole different ball game because now you are sharing your story with so many people in the world that suffer from some of the things that you do. So,
Yeah.
how did you get into advocacy?
Well, first I want to say this, Kathy.
Yeah.
I love you.
Oh, I
I
love you too.
there's two things that are coming to mind here. Number one, we were sitting at a little bar called Avenue Grill many,
Yes.
many years ago when I
Yes.
met you, and I said, I think I want to be a speaker.
Yeah. And I said, go for it. What are you,
You're
crazy?
like, why are you already doing it?
Yes.
And then second of all, the first show I ever came on was Pay It Forward Radio.
Yes.
And I was
True.
terrified. And I think that I called myself an advocate then, but I didn't really even know I was.
Yeah. But you were. You were.
I was. Um, so I went into advocacy. Um, do you want me to get into my OCD story or do we want to talk about advocacy first?
You know what? It's your story and you can start anywhere you want. That's how I feel about it. So you just take the floor, babe. Go for it.
Okay. Well, first I will tell you why I got into advocacy, and then maybe we can follow up with the story.
Okay.
Um, I got into advocacy for my type of OCD, which I'll tell you some background about that soon, because nobody else would.
Yeah.
And I think that there were people talking about it, and especially there was one gal over in the UK that I saw talking about it, but she was vague just as everybody else because my
Mm.
type of OCD is so shameful and so embarrassing and you feel so guilty and all that. And when I got into advocacy, I did it because I was tired of hiding.
Yeah.
And one of the one of the unfortunate circumstances that happens when you live with mental illness is that you live a major portion of your life in hiding.
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, people are never going to know who I really am inside. And that
Yeah.
is because you're so afraid they're going to judge you and that they'll reject you. I mean, every other day when we hear about some sort of horrible incident with guns or whatever else on television, it's always well, that person was mentally ill. Well, that, first of all, those statistics are not facts, but I know that's not what the show is about, so I'm not going to go into that. But I'm just telling you,
I want to
people.
hear it. Believe me. Listen, people.
But, those are the things that paint these horrible pictures about people who are mentally ill. I have sexual and violent intrusive thoughts. So I am the kind of person that nightmares are made of in my brain. And so when I hear people with mental illness should be feared, they are prone to violence, they're erratic, they're this, they're that, they can't be trusted, I think to myself, if people knew the horrible things that enter my mind that I'm terrified of, they would put me in that same category. And so when I started, what kicked me into advocacy was a relapse. I relapsed and when I moved to Denver and I was so ill and it took me 6 weeks to get back on my feet. And during that 6 weeks, I was running a clothing store and I couldn't take off work. I had just moved. I was broke and I didn't
Yeah.
have any employees. And so I was like, I have to be here. And I'm telling you, people would come into the store and then they would leave and I would fall on the floor with anxiety and panic. And I thought to myself, I have now been living with this illness for 20 something years.
Wow.
And it was treated I was perfectly fine. This relapse was 14 years in the making. I had not had relapse since then. And I thought to myself, I have a choice. I can either stay angry at myself and stay angry at the world and stay in hiding, or I can choose to put myself on the line and worry that people are going to judge me and hate me and believe what the thoughts are in my mind are real. But then all of a sudden, I didn't care anymore. I was like, the only people I really care about are the ones that are willing to take the risk to believe what I've been through
Right.
is it makes me a person worthy of knowing.
Yeah. Yes.
And everybody else fades away.
Right.
I could talk
Which
to a
is,
room full of 100 people, and 99 of them could go, "You're nuts," and you should be in a psychiatric facility. And one person could say, "Thank you," and they're the only person in my mind that matters. Everybody else, I just planted a seed, because one day those 99 people are going to face mental illness, whether it's with someone they love or something else,
agree.
and they're
Absolutely.
gonna
Absolutely.
remember.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think
So
what's
that's
so
a
great
lot.
about you, Chrissy, you know, is that so many people that are mentally ill, and it varies on how much they're mentally ill. I mean, people have depression, people have bipolar, people have OCD. There's so many different kinds of mental illness. From what I've seen, because I know people that have mental illness, so many people don't want to talk about it because, like you said, they don't want to be judged. They don't want to have people, saying, God, she's crazy. So they don't say anything. And really, that is a disservice to all of us when that doesn't happen, because the people that don't have a mental health issue, they can take how you treat me maybe one day because you're having an off day like crap and I'm hurt. But when we understand how it works and the makings of who you are and how this affects you in your life, we can be more compassionate. We can be more caring and loving, and that's what I like about what you're doing. You've written a book. You tell people, yeah, I'm talking about this. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about it. And you do. And you do. And you don't care what anyone thinks, because really all of us are individual people and we all have something. We all have something. So I want to say thank you for talking about it and letting us know that, and look at you. You don't look like a crazy person to me. Now, I'm not in your head,
There have
and I
been
don't have
times.
those, I don't have the, I don't have those intrusive thoughts, but you also manage your mental illness as well, which a lot of people don't do either. They take their meds for a little while and then they go off and then they go manic or whatever it is. So you are a great example of how you can live with what you're doing and what's happening to you and make it a platform to help other people and be honest.
Mhm.
So thank you for that. I mean, it's just incredible that you do that. I mean, I'm
The
always
big,
very,
the biggest
go ahead.
thing is people don't want to feel alone,
Right.
and nobody's alone. I have met, trust me, I have met in this advocacy journey the thoughts that people have had and the obsessions that they have. Nothing surprises me.
Right.
Number one.
Right.
But number two, nobody is alone. Nobody.
Nobody is alone. I know. And you've really helped us see that. I can tell you this. You have really helped us see that, and I appreciate that. So, um, do you want to tell us about the book? Because that's pretty exciting, Chrissy.
Yes, I do. So this is
Okay.
the book.
Look at it, people. Have a look at it. Take a screenshot if you need to. Okay.
So this book has been 18 years in the making. I'll be 40 next week, Kathy. 40.
Yay!
So it's been 19 years in the making. I just a little bit of background. My OCD obsession started when I was 8. My first obsession was the fear of throwing up. It switched on in a second, all consuming. I mean, every day, all day, I had mental compulsions. I developed this delusional belief that God was punishing me. I'd done something wrong and sinful. My family was really religious. We're from the South. My dad's a minister, and my
That's really
way,
religious.
yes, my way of coping with, anytime anything bad happens to any of us, we develop a story in our mind to make an excuse of why. What did I do to deserve this? Like, what circumstances? How do I, is it karma?
Right.
Is it this or this? Well, as an 8-year-old, I developed this full-on delusion that God was punishing me, with giving me these bad thoughts and these bad feelings, which is anxiety now, and I didn't know it. And there was also something inside of me that said, do not tell anybody. Like, everybody would be ashamed of you if they knew that you feared the stupid obsession of throwing up. And it doesn't sound stupid. Like, no one likes to throw up, but
No.
this was full on, like, 24/7. I was doing mental compulsion. So this is what distinguishes my type of OCD from everybody else's, is that I was practicing avoidance, rumination, reassurance seeking. If Google was available when I was 8 years old, I would have been the hell on Google all the time. Thank goodness.
Yes.
And so but at the same time, I created this huge persona to the outside world. Like, I am, this great kid, and I'm well behaved, and, the perfect student or whatever. And this lasted until I was a teenager, still believing this weird delusion, which, by the way, is called scrupulosity. When you have OCD and religion becomes involved,
Wow.
you have a delusional relationship with God, or a higher power. And so when I was a teenager, I started developing violent and sexual intrusive thoughts. Blasphemous at one point. I thought that I was afraid I was going to turn into a devil worshiper. I was afraid I was going to abuse kids for a little while, just from randomly, like, having an experience where a kid started crying, their face looked funny, and I laughed, and then I thought, oh my God, if I laugh, that means I'm going to become an abuser, and it stuck for a while. All these intrusive thoughts that everybody has. We all have weird, creepy thoughts.
Yes.
But normal people are like, why did I just picture my parents naked? Gross. I'm not going to think about that again.
Yeah.
And then OCD people will be like, why did I picture my dad naked? Does that mean I want to have sex with him? Like that.
Right.
And then it just spirals out, and you never want to see your dad, and all you can do is think about his groin every time you see him. So it's awful. And of course I have to make light of it.
Yeah,
And then
I know.
so when I was 14, I was at a friend's house. We started talking about sex, which every 14-year-old talks about, but I didn't want to because I was afraid if I did, God would punish me with bad thoughts. This is my life.
Right.
And all of a sudden that night, I had this visual of her and her boyfriend having sex, which I was like, ugh, no, stop.
Yeah.
And then the why hooked, and I went, does that mean that I'm going to turn gay because I'm visualizing my friend naked? And that hooked for me the same way the throw up fear did.
Right.
Now, disclaimer, I do not think there's anything wrong with being gay. No one.
Right. No, I know you don't.
Yeah, but some people hear it and they go, oh, you're just homophobic. No one with this type of OCD thinks that it's wrong.
Right.
It's just that I don't like chicks. I don't want to make out with them. That's the bottom line.
Right.
But
Right.
I couldn't stop worrying that there was a reason why I had that thought. And if you hone in on one thought, you can find things that will prove or disprove everywhere. Your body will start reacting. Everything. It's like if you go car hunting and you finally decide, I'm going to buy a Honda Civic.
Mm-hmm.
You drive off that lot and you're seeing Honda Civics everywhere.
Right.
Oh my God,
right.
everywhere.
It's true.
Everybody has my car because it's on your radar.
Yes.
That's how OCD works. Yeah. And so I lived in silence I never told anybody. I was devastated by that thought. I was terrified. And I thought, God has upped the ante. Like,
Oh.
this is my punishment now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would go
Well,
through depression, and I didn't know it was depression. I just thought these are my punishments. And I
mhm,
just knew, well, everybody else was like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I was like, I'm not going to survive. At some
mhm.
point, I'm going to have to die. Like, I will die
Oh,
before I say all of this out loud. And I knew there was a connection. I was like, throw up, turning gay. Like, what do these have to do with each other? Like, but my body would react the same way. So I had to believe it was punishment from God. It's so,
right.
it sounds so bizarre. But this is the
No, but
story that kept me alive.
right.
And it's the story, like, people sometimes will be like, that is delusional and you're crazy as shit. And I would be like, you know what? If it wasn't for that story, I would have been dead a lot earlier than I attempted. Um, and so I'm grateful to that story, regardless
Yeah.
of how stupid it sounds. Um,
It doesn't
anyway,
sound stupid at all. Because during that time when you're kind of in your hormonal stages of growing up, we all have weird thinking and we
yeah,
don't know how to decipher it. I mean, I remember being in puberty having weird thoughts and thinking, where are these coming from? You know?
what do they mean?
So, yeah, what do they mean? Because you're so hormonal and all these things are happening in the world and happening around you. So, it must have been hard to decipher yet that this could be a problem for me?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
And so
I,
go ahead.
I survived 12 years with these horrible thoughts, these massive depressive states. And all the while, I was this huge personality, and I was straight A's and full ride to college and an athlete and blah. And nobody knew. Nobody. And then my junior year, I fell into a depression. My cousin died, and it was a loss for me it was just beyond repair. And I fell into a clinical depression. And that depression was the worst thing I've ever experienced. I mean, I often say, if I could have, by the end, if I could have felt fear,
Right,
it would have been a reason to stay alive.
right.
But I was completely numb, and just, I made this, okay, this is crazy, but I made this pact with God the night that I attempted suicide. And I said, God, if you, seriously, I was so beyond delusional at this point. And
Right.
I said, if you wake me up before 5 a.m., I know you want me to die. If you let me sleep till my alarm, and God knows why I was getting up at 5 a.m. That's a sin in itself. But
Right.
I don't even know. But I said, if you let me sleep to the alarm, that means you want me to keep fighting. Well, I just set myself up. I mean, of course I'm gonna wake up. And
There was a
but
plan for you.
I woke up, and that, to me, I was taught. I'm just gonna put the disclaimer out there. I no longer believe this, but I was taught that if you don't have God, you have nothing. And that, to me, was God just told me I should die, and I had nothing, and all my hope was gone. And so death seemed like a relief. And so I hope this isn't like too much
No,
detail for
please.
your,
No, no. This is your story. Go for it.
but I thought that I deserved a gruesome death for someone who is such a horrible, gruesome person that couldn't control these horrible thoughts. But because by then I was reacting to everything. I'd look at a dog and be like, do I want to screw that dog? I mean, everything. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, like, every
Right.
thought I looked at, I had an intrusive thought about. And so I was just pummeled with misery. And so, I thought that I should have a self-inflicted knife wound to my stomach. I don't know why. And then I laid in a creek bed, attempting to die by hypothermia in the middle of December in Georgia. Um, and there was this moment, there was no divine intervention. Like, there wasn't this, I saw an angel or I saw anything. And I think it's important to say that that was the moment that I actually found strength in myself
Right.
because I don't want to contribute it to anything else other than
Right. Right.
I didn't know who I was, or I didn't even know I had strength. All I saw about myself was I was this weak human being, that had nothing to contribute to the world, and I was on the receiving end of some horrible punishment from a higher being. And that was the moment everything quieted down and I had nothing else to look forward to but dying.
Right.
And I thought there was something inside of me that just said, there's hope.
Hmm.
And after like an hour probably, and if any of you have ever experienced hypothermia, it is no joke. It is horrendous. And I could not walk because of the muscle contractions for so long. But ironically, the hypothermia saved me from dying and bleeding out. So it was a miracle.
Yeah, it was like putting you on ice, right?
Yes, I was partially frozen and I was like in a freezer. So I crawled for help. I couldn't walk, and these people. They took me in, called my dad, which was horrible, and then I had exploratory surgery. I went to the hospital. I went into the psychiatric facility after surgery, which was horrible. But those were my first peers. Once I stopped being a brat, and treating people like crap, and then I got a diagnosis and my medication started working, I met all these wonderful people inside this lockdown, like one flew over the cuckoo's nest facility who, they were like, they had jobs and they had families, and they were athletes, and I couldn't believe it. And so I got out, went back to school, relapsed because I was like, screw these meds, I don't need them, I have OCD. And I relapsed like crazy. And that's when I found the specialist a year later, and I got treatment. And so this is leading to the question that you asked me. I was in the middle of treatment, okay, and I started to see that it could work. And I said, oh my God, like I could actually live with this horrendous disorder that had ruled me now for 13 years. And I was starting to see like the break, like the sunlight. And I went, one day, I bet I could tell my story, because I knew there were other people out there, because my therapist was like, I treat people like you all the time, but it was just taboo, so nobody talks about it. And so I said, one day, I was sitting on the steps of my psychology building, and I remember looking in the sky, like, one day I'm gonna tell my story. And it was like OCD came down and was like, bitch, no, you're not. I'm not even kidding. It was like, you are never gonna tell anybody. Nobody will believe you. Everybody will reject you. They will think you were your illness. They will not, and so I was like, okay. And I stayed quiet. But that thought, talk about the power of intention.
Right.
Like, I put it out there, and then for the next 14 years, I just did a presentation about this morning. The next 14 years, I buried myself in stigma. I didn't tell anybody what had happened. I left Georgia. I didn't want anything to do with anything because I was treated. I was fine. So I am not mentally ill, and I'm going to go as far away. I run as far as I can away from everything. But I'm going to tell you, it catches up with you, because you cannot run away from your stuff. And then so I relapsed, and I already told that part of the story. And I started the book when I relapsed. I started writing it. And that is when I started. So 6 years ago. And I said, if I write down the story of my life, I will remember that this is a disorder and I do have it and I can beat it. And so I'm going to start writing it so I can refer back every time I relapse. And then when I got done, I was like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm a pretty good writer.
And 5 drafts later.
That's okay. It doesn't matter.
Here it is.
I am so proud of you. That is so great. That's going to help so many people. Really, it will help so many people out there. And I tell you, if you all want to know more about Pure, because it's called Pure OCD.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Pure
So
O.
Pure O, Pure OCD. It's a
Yeah.
nickname.
So,
It isn't a clinical term. It's a nickname for our
yeah.
community.
Okay. The book, again, is called Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. You can get it on Amazon. Just Google it. You can find it. It's there. And I can tell you, it can help you. And it doesn't, to me, it's really not always, because I'm on the other side. It's not always about the OCD, that piece of it. It's about what you suffer through. It's
Mm-hmm.
about what you go through in a crowd of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how you interact, and I think it's really important to know that as a person being on the other side. I just think it's important to know what to do, because I'm a compassionate person. I don't want to step on anybody's toes or make them feel that they're out of place or any of that. So to me, that really helps me to
Mm-hmm.
hear what that was like for you. So you all need to go to Amazon and grab the book. Believe me, you need to grab it.
It's really
So,
intense.
yeah, I'm sure it is, because, well, you're a very bigger than life person. You're an intense person. So I'm sure it's very intense, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And Kathy, the interesting thing is it did take me 6 years to write it, but I needed all of that time in
Yeah.
advocacy to be
Yeah.
brave enough
Yeah.
to talk about the dirty details about this disorder. Because if you don't get dirty,
Right.
people are going to think they don't have it or they're worse than you are.
Right.
And the
Right.
important thing is to make people, and I'm not saying like worse than you, like it's a competitive thing, but
Right.
OCD will make you find a way. Well, she has this, but I do this, and it's so awful. And I just needed to write every detail possible, no matter how it could embarrass me or
Right.
shame me. It won't anymore. Like, I don't care. But I wanted people to be able to see it and go, oh my God, I experienced the same thing, and there's hope.
Yeah. And that's really what we all really want, no matter what we're going through, is hope. I mean, you heard the words when you're laying in a creek bed.
Mm-hmm.
There's hope. And if we can hear that in our world and listen to that and know that I mean, to me, the biggest thing is whether, you know, you suffer from OCD, or whether you're the parent that has a child or has a
Yes.
friend or whatever, you know, you just want to know that you're just not alone. You're not
Yes.
alone.
That's what we
And
all.
but we hide behind it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't want to embarrass ourselves, even if it's me. If I have a friend, or I don't want to maybe say anything. I don't give a crap anymore. We are all people, okay? We all have a right to be here. We're all unique in our way, and that's what makes the world go round. What if everyone was like me? What a bummer. What a boring place it would be. So to
That's
have
not true.
everyone, well, I mean,
A
I
world
just,
full of Kathy Bacons would be awesome.
you're so sweet. I love that. I think I would get sick of them, quite frankly. I would be sick of those people. Oh gosh. Anyway, so this OCD that you're talking about, is it common, or is it not as common as other OCDs?
Okay. So, the type of OCD okay, so let me give you a little bit of background about it.
Please.
Dr. Stephen Phillipson, who was my doctor, and bless him. Bless him.
Thank you, doctor.
Yes.
Let's give him a shout out.
Woo, Dr. Phillipson. He coined the term pure O. So it stands for purely obsessional. However, it's just a
Okay.
nickname. So it's not
Right.
a mechanic kind of
Got it.
thing where we're some weird subset over here that doesn't have compulsions. Because
Right.
OCD is comprised of obsessions, compulsions, and anxiety.
Right.
You have to have those three components. So my OCD has the obsession. They're the intrusive, horrible, unwanted thoughts. And I could go down the list of what they are. But basically just anything that you could think of that would be miserable, like violence, sexual intrusive thoughts, blasphemous, bodily fluids, things like that. Fear of getting AIDS. Like, I touched a doorknob. What if someone touched this that had AIDS? Or
Oh.
and here's the thing, like, it's not discriminatory. I don't hate people that have AIDS. People don't hate people. It's just that fear and that uncertainty. People will have the fear of AIDS because they're a fear of blood, and they'll go and take 10 AIDS tests in a month compulsively. And and then the 10th one will come back and be like, it must have been a mistake. I needed an 11th one. So
yes.
So
and it's really not funny. I'm not laughing at you, but
no,
but
you
know,
gotta
have
humor, especially with our type. So the compulsions are mental. So they're the most typical compulsions are going to be avoidance, ruminating, which is trying to solve the unsolvable question. So it's I feel like this, and I need to go over in my head. Well, what if this? What if this? What if this? What if this? There's prayer rituals if scrupulosity is involved. There's reassurance seeking. So Kathy, I just ate a bowl of, pot stickers, and if we're done with the broadcast, I'm like, Kathy, I think that chicken was raw. Do you think I'm gonna vomit tonight? That's me asking you reassurance.
Yes.
So, Googling.
I need you to be on my team. So do you think this is gonna happen? Yeah. No, I can understand. I understand.
So compulsive Googling. Oh, Google is your best friend and your worst enemy. So this is what it's called. So there's this argument in the OCD community of, well, pure O doesn't exist because there is no purely obsessional. They don't like the term.
And what do you say to that?
I say, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Because all that matters is the community of people that identify that, it's been said there's an average of 10 to 12 years by the time people finally get the help they need.
Right.
And who knows how many people have this and complete suicide.
Right.
Before they get to that 10 to 12 years. Because I'm going to tell you, I worked in the state institution as a peer support for a year and a half. I met not one therapist, psychologist, anybody that knew what this type of OCD was.
Wow.
We're in 2017 now.
17, yeah. Why aren't we looking at this? Yeah.
So it's not their fault. And I'm not saying that they're stupid.
Yeah.
It's just, this is not mainstream knowledge. It's people are going to be, diagnosed as they have homicidal tendencies. They're sexual predators. They're confused about their sexual identity, which is very different. They're pedophiles, things like that. These horrible things that can easily be treated. So, to answer the other question, is it common? Yes.
Okay.
It is absolutely common. I work at Effective OCD Treatment, or I contract with Matt Miles here in Denver at Effective OCD Treatment. He sees more patients with this type of OCD than any other.
But people are quiet, right? That's why they don't know about it. They're quiet.
Who really wants to go out there and say,
no,
I worry that I'm going to massacre my family tomorrow? Because they're going to be painted as a lunatic.
Yeah.
And then when they get treated, they're like, get this as far away from me as possible.
Right.
I don't want to do it again.
Right.
So just so everybody knows here, like, I am not an anomaly. Like, this is rampant and would probably drive the percentage up of people who actually have OCD. And I do want everyone to know that treatment is available and it is absolutely treatable.
Yeah. See, that gives me hope. I'm sure it gives many people hope that, sometimes some mental health issues are not treatable. They're maintainable, but they're not all the way, treatable.
Yes.
But
there isn't like a straightforward answer.
Yes. Right. But for you, for OCD, it really, really does. There's hope, and you can find the right medical treatment for it and live a pretty normal life. You live a pretty normal life, I would say.
Yes. I talk about sexual intrusive thoughts every day.
I love it. You
The
are
key
so
is
great.
you have to find the right therapist. So this is the biggest
Right.
issue
Right.
for the people that have this type of OCD. You're going to get misdiagnosed. People aren't going to
Right.
give you talk therapy. They're going to be like, let's look at your childhood. Let me tell you something.
Right. Oh,
Childhood doesn't have anything to do with it. Okay.
no.
OCD is
No.
not trauma based. It's none of that crap. You didn't have
No.
some bad experience and then all of a sudden you developed OCD. You were predisposed to it. The
Yeah.
bully was what we call OCD. The OCD bully hooked you on one day. I don't know, that
Yeah.
dude barfed in my classroom. I happened to
Yeah.
take fear from it.
Yeah.
Screw you,
Yeah.
Brian Spears.
It was all your fault, Brian.
It was.
Why did you do that to her? Brian,
One of these
had it
days
with
I'm going to
you.
find him.
You will find him. That's right. You will find him. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, I remember even being in high school, we would go, oh God, I'm so OCD because
Mhm.
like we'd wash our hands 100 times or we'd wash our
I
face
know.
100 times. And it was like an expression, but I would never say it now because
Yeah.
it's a whole different, I mean, this is serious stuff. This is not to be
Well,
taken light.
I think that society paints it that OCD has a spectrum, and
Yeah.
OCD does not have a spectrum. You have it or you don't. And
Right.
everybody has OC, everybody
Mm.
has obsessions and compulsions.
Yes, they
Not
do.
everybody has a disorder. And so people go, oh my God, Chrissy, why do you have to be so PC and so sensitive? And I say to them, the reason why is because when you paint the picture that everybody has a little bit of OCD, you trivialize it to the point where people who are suffering day in and day out think they are so weak and so stupid that they can't stop these behaviors, that they will not ask for help. So you are contributing to people, perhaps their death.
Yeah.
I just put it to them like that.
Well, and I'm telling you, it got me. If it gets me, it's going to get other people too. That's for sure. And it looks like we're having a few views. This video will also be posted on Chrissie's page because I want you all to see it. I want you to see. And I know you guys watch her every week when she comes out with her little video, but I'll put this on her page. But Rose Ratcliffe, who's a friend of mine,
Yay! Hello,
she was
Rose.
watching it. She's watching it and she's liked it. So if you're still out there, Rose, please make a comment. I love comments. But people are watching and it looks like there's been 16 views so far. So it goes up, believe me. It goes up when it's posted. So I just really, I'm just grateful to have you on. And I'm not done with you yet. So
Okay,
anyway,
good.
so this is a big one. How would you know if your loved ones suffered from pure OCD? What would give you an inkling to sort of think something's not quite right with my son, my daughter, my husband, my whatever? How would I actually know that maybe I should look deeper into this? It's not just a phase, or it's not just puberty, or it's not just whatever we wanted to think it was.
Okay. So some signs, and unfortunately, there's not a straightforward answer for this, and a
Right.
clinician can answer this better. So if you have suspicions,
Yeah.
go talk to an OCD therapist. Don't talk to a random practitioner.
Yeah.
Talk to a
And don't look it
specialist.
up on Google. Don't look it up on Google.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll give some links before we leave for
Yes,
people
please.
if they
Please.
need to. So a couple indications would be frequent anxiety. And so if you have a kid, you're going to know when your child is experiencing anxiety. Everybody, it displays in many different ways, but you're going to know, whether that be isolation or whether that be panic attacks or whatever.
Right.
if your child is asking for reassurance a lot, if they're asking a lot of what if questions,
Okay.
and if there's a specific theme that they may revolve around or they avoid. So I'll
Okay.
give you an example.
Okay.
When I had the vomit fear, and I still do, I can't even deny it. I never had therapy for it, and I don't want to, because ERP is awful therapy.
Oh yeah, I can
It
imagine.
works, but it's awful. But I'm okay. Like, unless I
Yeah.
vomit tonight, then I won't be. However, if my parents knew that I had, or even knew that it existed, they may be able to trace a fine line between why it is I never wanted to go near things at the fair that were spun around and around and around.
Okay.
Or like I had panic attacks when we would be at amusement parks. I would ask all the time, do you think I'm going to get sick from this? Do you think that this is cooked right? Do you think that, what if this, what if this?
Yeah.
And so starting to piece together, it seems to be that this, she or he has anxiety towards something, this, or they're avoiding this, or they're pitching a fit because they don't want to go somewhere. So
Right.
things like that. And you may think, and this is interesting, I just have recently come to terms with this. You may think to yourself, oh, whatever, that kid is just being manipulative or defiant. So how do we know whether or not it's manipulation and defiance versus anxiety?
Right.
The answer to that question is, does it matter?
It doesn't matter, does it? Just get them help.
I mean, does it matter?
Right.
How
Pick your
different are
battles.
they? Defiance, manipulation are ways to get your needs met.
That's right. That's right. It's true. But
So
we have to categorize it. We have to categorize it. Because as a parent, do we want to be manipulated? Oh, no, we do not.
I manipulated the hell out of my parents to get my way because I didn't want to be around anybody that would barf.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad reason. Yes.
It wasn't.
Lied. Yes,
no,
I probably did horrible things, but still, like, I was doing it to protect my own interests.
Right.
And so it's, if you suspect, number one, it's always going to be an irrational fear. Always. Yeah. It's always going to be accompanied by anxiety. Always.
Yeah.
And number three, if you decide to talk to them about what it is, you better be prepared to believe whatever they say is so real to them. Yeah. And number two, B, that would be A, and then there was B. Do not act shocked or disgusted by what it is that they're thinking. Do not. So that's what I have to say about that.
That would be like a kick in the face. I mean, we all want.
I mean, it's what if your kid? I'm just going to be blunt here, but what if your kid came to you and said, "I worry that I want to have sex with you"?
Yeah.
You're like, the parent would be like, it would be horrible, but this is an intrusive thought, and they're starting to avoid you because they're like, oh my God, I had a vision of my parent naked, and what if that means this, and what if that means that? And if you react in a way that's like gross, you're just validating that they're a gross person.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, oh my God, now everybody hates me, and then it just spirals down. So I'm going to tell you, OCD will latch onto anything and everything, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. So, but how do parents get support if they have a child or someone they know? I mean, where can they go to get support? Because they don't know what to do with this stuff now. They know it, and they're like, oh my gosh, am I crazy? Is this crazy? What's crazy? I need, and talking to other people, to me, I've always been in support groups. It always helps to be around other people that are experiencing what you are and sharing with you, because then you kind of go, oh, I'm not alone. Well, I'm not alone.
Yes. So this is tricky Because people who have this type of OCD, it's going to be hard if they actually do admit what their fear is, which is
Right.
rare because everybody's scared of it. Because we're afraid if we say it out loud, that means it's true.
Yeah.
So if we do admit it to someone, we will swear them to secrecy.
Yeah.
And you probably should abide.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if anybody thinks that this is a problem and you're listening right now, if you hear anything I have to say,
Yeah.
this whole hour, if this is an issue for you or your loved one, do not waste time going to general practitioners, regular therapists, psychiatrists, this and this and this. Go to an OCD specialist.
Right.
Make sure they do exposure response prevention therapy. It's part of cognitive behavioral therapy. Write it down. ERP. If they don't do ERP, do not go to them. Say, thank you very much. We're going to find someone else. You aren't hurting anybody's feelings. If you stay with them, you're hurting your child or you're hurting yourself. Yeah. Go to a specialist. Do not waste time or money. So,
and what does ERP stand for?
Exposure response prevention. It's a type of therapy. Most therapists combine it with mindfulness.
Okay.
So, however, mindfulness is a supplemental. So the two kind of exist with each other.
Right.
I'm going to give you a couple links.
Okay.
So if you want some more information about this type of OCD, and this is a place where you can go to get some support and get some information. Okay. OCDonline.com, hands down the best website for this type of OCD. It's Dr. Stephen Phillipson. He has amazing articles. There's OCDbaltimore.com. And then there's OCDLA.com. LA like Los Angeles.
Yep.
Those are 3 great places to get information, articles, success stories, therapists that will really help you. And if they're not going to help you or they can't or you can't afford them, they will point you to someone who can.
Right.
Go there. Awesome. Don't waste time.
Right. What if someone wants to get a hold of you? Or they want to connect with you? And do you do that? Do you take people? Okay. So how can
I provide peer support to people?
Yep.
In private practice as well as through effectiveocdtreatment.com. But and I also have a resource referral consultation business where I can hook you up with like what I like to call the OCD package, the OCD package of hope.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect, Chrissie. That's wonderful. Yeah.
So you can contact me at ChrissieHodges.com.
ChrissieHodges.com.
Or ocd.chrissie@gmail.com. Either one will take you to me, but I love hearing your story. I love being able to connect people, the right supports. Feel free to reach out, and you are not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone. And that's a wonderful thing to know about any mental illness is that, whether you're the sufferer or you're the supporter, you're not alone. And there's no need to hide about it. And there's no need to not talk about it because that's where help comes. Once you start opening your mouth about it, right, and talking about it, then all of a sudden you're in the mix with the people you need to be with. I mean, that's how I've always experienced it. Yeah, it sure does. So, yes, I will put all these resources on my website because on my website, I have place for everyone who's been on the show, and I put their contact information. So I will put this on there, Kathy /bacon.com. Go on there. Chrissie's on there as my most recent guests. I have 2 pages, one for the guest that's coming on and one for the past guest. And all the interviews are on that page as well. So please go there because, and I post them on my channel on YouTube because the people that I've had on, like just today, I hope somebody tuned in that needed this. And if it was just one person, oh my gosh, I am thrilled to death because you are a no nonsense person. And anytime I hear people suffering, I always refer them to you. I always do. You need to talk to my friend Chrissie. You need to talk to my friend Chrissie because, you know, they feel alone and they don't even know how to talk about it, you know?
I know.
It's just, it's very hard. It's a very hard thing. And I understand how you feel when you hear, okay, there was another shooter and he had a mental health problem. That's craziness too. Sometimes people are predestined to just kill people and they don't have a mental health issue, or if they do, or they're angry. I mean, there's just so many things that could be part of that. So, you know, we need to really look at the people that are suffering and be compassionate, find a way to get involved, be able to send people or give people the right information, which I know Chrissie will do. So if I give you links, please see her. And will you show us the book again before we go?
Yes.
I got to tell you, I am so proud of you.
Thank
because
you.
I remember before I left Colorado, we were trying to set up a thing where we wrote, about, because we were all trying to do some books where we wrote, and it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out. And it's funny now, I've started a book myself, and it's weird because I've never thought of myself as a writer, but then all of a sudden you sit down and you start writing. You just write. It just comes from a place that you had no idea you had in you. And you do. Exactly. And you realize that, what you have to say and what you've said in this book is really going to help a ton of people. And I'm just so happy to have you on. And I'm so just honored to see what you're doing in Colorado for the mental health, groups, for the police department. Are you kidding me right now? The police department. Thank you.
I'm actually speaking at a mental health caucus tomorrow to state legislatures.
That's awesome.
I'm pretty nervous.
But you know what? You can never tell that you're nervous because you just get up there and bam, bam, bam. It's happening, man. That's what's happening. So
bring the sass.
Yeah, bring it on because you've got the
mental
answers.
Health sass.
Yes, exactly. So I just want to say to everyone that tuned in and that will tune in that thank you very, very much for listening to What's Your Story and Chrissie Hodges. And again, go to Amazon, look at the book, Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. You will be glad you did. And I am so grateful to see you. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to What's Your Story. See you next week.